The crossover segment is growing, but the crossovers are getting smaller, so Suzuki Vitara is going back to its roots.
Vitara debuted back in 1988 as a small SUV. This was before anyone knew what the hell a crossover is. Since 2005, Vitara got bigger and it had the word Grand before its name, and remained mostly unchanged for 10 years. Meanwhile, Suzuki launched the SX4 and slightly bigger S-Cross, and then they decided to shrink the Vitara.
I'll admit that seeing the car for the first time at the Paris Motor Show, I was skeptical. Just another crossover which will disappear among its rivals. But today I think with this Vitara, Suzuki may just as well axe the S-Cross. In one attractive package, we get an efficient engine, a decent multimedia system, all-wheel drive, spacious interior and a good-sized boot. And that's before we get to the cherry on top.
The 375-liter boot is on par with competitors like Renault Captur, Mazda CX-3 or Jeep Renegade, but it's one of the most practical boots out of the three. The boot cover fits under the double floor, there is a hook for your shopping and even a 12-volt socket. And then there is a system to store the dividers. Why can't we have boots like this in all cars? Vitara comes with a repair kit as standard. A mini spare may also be available at extra cost. Seats in the second row fold flat. There is decent legroom for a mid-size adult, but the optional panoramic roof eats into the headroom. There is a relatively flat tunnel in the middle, but you won't be able to keep your feet on it because the center console is rather long. There is a place for large bottles of water in the door bins.
The dashboard is plain and simple, and if you go for a low or mid-spec version, it's also going to be dull. In the top-spec model, you get color accents and a multimedia system with sat-nav. They give the interior a good lift. Suddenly the Vitara starts looking smarter than you'd expect from the price tag.
By the way, the infotainment system features mirror-link technology. However, as I found out, functionality is rather limited. There is a good-sized glove box in front of the passenger and a big compartment at the bottom of the center console. There is also a place above the driver's left knee, which can hold a mobile phone, but there is no armrest.
The first thing I noticed when I got into this car and I touched a few things is how big is the knob, the gearbox knob. It's out of proportion. And the gearbox is just 5-speed for the 120 horsepower petrol engine. There's also a 6-speed with a diesel and a 6-speed automatic as well, but that depends on the market. For example, in Poland we just get the 1.6 petrol manual for now. One day we will get the automatic. Under the bonnet of this example, yes, we're in Poland, so I obviously have the 1.6 petrol engine. It's naturally aspirated, so, well, it should be reliable. 1.6 naturally aspirated. Suzuki had it in half of its cars, or 3/4 of its cars, so chances are nothing will go wrong with it. With all-grip, all-wheel drive system, Suzuki promises this will do 5.6 liters per 100 kilometers in the combined cycle, which is realistic. Barely, but realistic, and 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers in the urban cycle, which is optimistic. Very optimistic indeed.
While we're on the subject of all grip, you can operate it with a knob next to the gear lever. In the latter, you can also engage permanent all-wheel drive, which comes in handy when going gets tougher. Vitara won't take you too far, but it will let you know in advance when it's time to turn back. What I don't get in off-roaders and off-road-like cars is why you have to manually turn all the systems off when you engage all-wheel drive lock. I really don't need ESP and parking sensors off-road.
spec may vary from market to market, but at least in Poland, Vitara comes with hill assist system as standard. That's uphill assist, and in case of the all-wheel drive model, there is also downhill assist as standard, regardless of the spec. Mid-spec models with all-wheel drive also come with emergency braking assist and adaptive cruise control, so that's nice for yes, see, I was looking for 6th gear. Sorry, it's a 5-gear shifter. You know, you get used to good stuff, and it could really use it on the motorway. It really could use 6th gear. Speaking of gears, the gearbox is nice and light, nice and easy, but then again, Suzuki's had a similar gearbox in most of their cars, so there shouldn't really be any problem. Sound insulation is okay if you go around the city or if you go around B roads like this one, so it's okay. The suspension, a bit on the rough side. I'm not saying it's gonna fall apart, but it does make unpleasant noises when the going gets a bit rougher, so that's not very pleasant, but you know, savings had to be made somewhere, and in this segment, well, yeah, that's that. From behind the wheel of the Vitara, I do feel safe and confident. The sitting position is slightly higher than in normal passenger cars, so I got a good view of the road. The A-pillars aren't too thick, they're actually just right, so I don't get this huge blind spot like in a Jeep Renegade, for example. Visibility across my shoulder is also pretty good. There is a rather good window there between C and the D pillars. The steering is light and precise, but I suppose with the 0 to 100 kilometers per hour time of about 12 seconds, well, it's unlikely you're gonna win any drag races. But then, I don't care. This is an honest car for a fair price. So, what is a fair price? Prices of the Vitara start at just 18,000 euros or 22.5 grand for an all-wheel drive model. This makes the Vitara probably the second cheapest all-wheel drive car in the segment after Dacia Duster. It may not be a proper off-roader, but if you want one, get a Jimny. Watch more of my reviews, and while you're here, hit that subscribe button. Also, drop me a comment below, give me a thumbs up, and if you really liked the video, why don't you share it with your friends? New reviews every Friday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.